What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Stats with Evan, and I'm here to give you my predictions for Week 3 of the NFL season. Let's get it poppin'. Before we get started, just a couple things to know. By now, I'm sure y'all have noticed the new scenery around here. Well, that's because recently I found some, let's just call them unwanted house guests in my room. So we called the exterminator. We're getting rid of them, but I'm gonna have to stay down here for the next couple weeks, and that's why I missed the videos this weekend, because I was busy getting acclimated to my new living arrangements. But that being said, beyond that, y'all know how this works. All the predictions you will hear in this video are completely, totally, and 100% unbiased. These predictions are not a measure of which teams I like better or which teams I like worse. They're just a measure of which team I think has a better chance of winning this game this week. All 32 teams get the same energy. Y'all know how I'm rolling. With that being said, let's get on with the video. As always, we're going to start with the Thursday night game, the Tennessee Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm still trying to figure out the AFC South, but two things are for certain here. The Tennessee Titans are better than I thought they were. Shout out to all the Titans fans watching. And the Jacksonville Jaguars 2017 is looking more and more like a fluke every day. The Titans have put together a solid 2 weeks to open the season, and the Jaguars are falling apart faster than a Taco Bell taco. The Jags offense is middle of the pack at best. They're on a 6-game losing streak, by the way. And they face a Titans defense that will turn you over if you're not careful. Just ask the Browns and the Colts. So, for this reason, scoring is going to be low because it's a Thursday night game. We got to keep that in mind. But I'll say Tennessee forces a fourth quarter turnover to win it 17-14 over Jacksonville. And now we go to our early games. We start with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills. I look at this matchup and I see that both teams are about on par with what I expected from them this season. The Cincinnati Bengals are coming off of a beatdown last week at the hands of the 49ers, in which they got just 25 yards on the ground for the whole game. Their opponent this week is a Buffalo Bills squad that's 2-0 for a good reason: their defense. The Bills used their underrated defense to smother both New York teams, the Giants and the Jets, en route to a 2-0 record, and the Bengals offense doesn't exactly turn heads this season, especially without AJ Green. For this reason, I'll give this one to Buffalo 21-13 over Cincinnati. Up next, we got the Miami Dolphins and the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, I know, but we got to talk about every game, so let's just rip the Band-Aid off right here and now. The Miami Dolphins started their season by getting absolutely beaten the life out of them twice at home. Now, opening the season with back-to-back home losses is not ideal, but especially the way the Dolphins lost both those games. It's just brutal. And now they go on the road for the first time this season, and they play the Dallas Cowboys. I think you can tell by now that this game is not going to be pretty. The Cowboys are on pace to win the NFC East, and the Dolphins are on pace to be one of, if not the worst team of all time. Not much more to be said. Dallas wins big 45-3 over Miami. Up next, we got the Denver Broncos and the Green Bay Packers. A Super Bowl rematch and a game between two teams I didn't have high expectations for going into the season. There is one big difference between these two, however. The Green Bay Packers have been on a mission to prove me wrong ever since they kicked off in Chicago, while the Denver Broncos, well, I told y'all about that offensive line. Now they face a Packers defense that has absolutely dominated a pair of divisional foes in Chicago and the Vikings. Congratulations, Green Bay. You have earned my trust. I'll take you to win this game 27-10 over Denver. Up next, we got the Atlanta Falcons and the Indianapolis Colts. Matchups like this are where home field makes a pretty big deal. The Atlanta Falcons have already turned in a solid performance at home against the Eagles and a subpar performance on the road in Minnesota, where the Indianapolis Colts are playing their home opener after sending the message in their first two games in LA and Tennessee that they are not ready to fold on the season. The Falcons have a solid offense, but the Colts have a sound defense. The Falcons have had their moments on defense, but same can be said for the Colts offense. If this game was in Atlanta, I would pick the Falcons, but it's not. So I'll take Indianapolis 21-17 over Atlanta. Up next, we got the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. An ecstatic showdown between Lamar Jackson's Baltimore Ravens and Patrick Mahomes' Kansas City Chiefs. Now I guess y'all want to hear me talk about this game too, don't you? Well, I will. With the way these two have been slinging the ball around the field this season, I expect plenty of points at Arrowhead. There are a couple things I want to note here though. Lamar Jackson is 8-1 in the regular season, but the one loss was in Kansas City. This means it's a revenge game for Jackson. Additionally, the Ravens are the toughest team the Chiefs have played so far, but the same can be said the other way around, that the Chiefs are the toughest team the Ravens have played so far, and the difference in high quality opponents is just way bigger. Anyway, before I get my tongue tied up, this could go either way, but I'm going to go ahead and take Kansas City to win in the Chiefs' Kingdom 34-31 over Baltimore. Up next, we got the Oakland Raiders and the Minnesota Vikings. A battle between two teams coming off reality checks. The Minnesota Vikings got left out in the cold last week in Green Bay, and the Oakland Raiders enjoyed a nice 5-quarter fantasy before getting a heavy dose of reality from Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs, and a 4-touchdown second quarter. Between these two, I will admit the Raiders' offense looks better than I thought they would without Antonio Brown, but we're just not going to talk about AB, not here. But the Vikings' offense still looks better. They still look better than the Raiders do right now. The Vikes also have the edge on defense over a young Raiders defense. So for that reason, I'll go with Minnesota 27-10 over Oakland. Up next, we got the New York Jets and the New England Patriots. Whew, child, where do I begin with this game right here? The New England Patriots are showing no signs of slowing down their patrioting anytime soon. Meanwhile, the New York Jets are falling apart in every way imaginable. The only caveat you can have for the Patriots is that their 2 wins were against teams with a combined record of 0-4, and they have a combined total of 3 losses by at least 30 points in that span. But considering how 2 of those 30-point L's were given out by the Patriots, and that the Jets themselves are 0-2, this shouldn't factor in too much to this matchup. New England wins easy 55-7 over New York. Up next, we got the Detroit Lions and the Philadelphia Eagles. Wait, before you turn that dial, hear me out on this one. The Detroit Lions are off to their best start in quite some time, and they face a Philadelphia Eagles team that has been living on the edge the first 2 weeks. The Lions have a very slept-on defense that did their job well against the Chargers last week. Hey man, scoreboard don't lie. And the Eagles offense may be without their biggest playmakers this week in Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey. In fact, Deshaun Jackson has been ruled out as of this video. This game may very well be decided in the first half, and that's where the Lions have an advantage, as the Eagles have yet to start a game on the right foot. They're maybe a touchdown pass away from being 0-2. For this reason, I'll make this game my upset of the week and pick Detroit over Philadelphia 24-20. And now we go to the late games. We start with the Carolina Panthers and the Arizona Cardinals. These two haven't exactly gotten off to the best starts to their season, but for the Arizona Cardinals, there is at least somewhat of an upside. The Cardinals have been one of the better fourth-quarter teams in the league, although this has yet to translate to wins. However, this week they face a Carolina Panthers team in an absolute tailspin. Cam Newton has already been ruled out for this game, and Christian McCaffrey has played every single snap for the Panthers on offense, which cannot be good for McCaffrey long-term, and it signals that the Panthers don't have many more reliable playmakers on offense. Now, one of these two is going to get their first win of the season in the desert, and I think it's going to be Arizona 24-13 over Carolina. Up next, we got the New York Giants and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You know, there's a certain irony to this one. Daniel Jones is making his first start for the New York Giants, and he goes against Jameis Winston, who is likely in his last season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Neither team has been particularly appealing this season, but the Bucs have at least been competitive in their 2 games. I can't say the same for the Giants. Plus, the Bucs defense has surprised me this season. I gotta admit that. I'm about to pick one of these teams for the first time this season, and I'm going with Tampa, 24-14 over New York. Up next, we got the Houston Texans and the Los Angeles Chargers. This is going to be a good game to watch. Both teams are a couple inches and a couple seconds away from 2-0 this season, and I feel like this will be a good chance for the winner to prove that they belong in the playoff conversation. There are plenty of reasons I could state as to why either team will win, but I feel like emotion will play a factor in this, and here's why. The Texans just dodged a bullet in Jacksonville, and the Chargers just lost a winnable game in Detroit. This left the Chargers with a bad taste in their mouth, so I said LA comes out mad, LA plays aggressively, and LA wins this game 31-17 over Houston. Up next, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers and the San Francisco 49ers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are off to a nightmare of a start, and the San Francisco 49ers are making a statement to the NFC that they are here. The Niners offense showed out last week to the tune of 572 total yards in Cincinnati, and their defense kept the thing rolling by holding the Bengals to just 25 yards on the ground. That's insane. Meanwhile, for the Steelers, I understand they just got Minkah Fitzpatrick, but what exactly was that supposed to accomplish? Pittsburgh is going into Santa Clara without their franchise quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger, and possibly their number 1 running back in James Conner. Add on to that, San Francisco seems to be one of the most well-rounded teams in the league, so I'll say the Niners take this 34-10 over Pittsburgh. Up next, we got the New Orleans Saints and the Seattle Seahawks. Okay, let's get one thing out the way first. Yes, I am aware that Drew Brees is going to miss some time, but fortunately for Saints fans, the New Orleans Saints may be the deepest team in the league at the quarterback position because they still have the likes of Teddy Bridgewater and Taysom Hill. The Seattle Seahawks are 2-0, but given the nature of their wins, I'm not exactly sold on this team. Their 2 wins were a combined total of 3 points, and they were against teams with a combined record of 0-4. Both teams are 0-2. The Saints aren't exactly lost at sea with a quarterback like Teddy Bridgewater, who has previous starting experience from his time in Minnesota. Add on to that, they have one of the best young receivers in the league in Michael Thomas. Now, maybe Seattle proves me wrong, maybe they don't, but I'm rolling with Nolans on this one, 24-20 over Seattle. And now we got our Sunday night game, the Los Angeles Rams and the Cleveland Browns. This could be a good game, or it could be a curb stomp. The Los Angeles Rams offense is firing on all cylinders right now, and they face a Cleveland Browns defense that has had its ups this season, but they've also had their downs. Now, the Rams heard me last week when I said they couldn't close games, and they tackled this issue head on against the Saints. I didn't throw the Browns away after week 1, and they rewarded me with a 23-point performance in New York where Baker Mayfield threw for 325 yards and Odell Beckham racked up 161 himself, including an incredible catch at MetLife. One thing about this matchup, though, the Browns defense couldn't handle Ryan Tannehill a couple of weeks ago, so I don't like their chances against the Rams. I'll give this one to LA 35-20 over Cleveland. And last but not least, we got our Monday night game, the Chicago Bears and the Washington Redskins. Now here's the difference between Evan the fan and Evan the analyst. Evan the fan speaks with his heart. Evan the analyst speaks with his brain. Now here's what my brain is telling me. Points are going to be very low in this game because the Chicago Bears have a very good defense, and it's going to be interesting to see them go against a Washington Redskins offense that has surpassed expectations despite the 0-2 record. Now, I get the Washington Redskins defense hasn't started out too well, but the Bears offense has scored a whopping total of 1 touchdown through the first 2 weeks of the season. This means that whatever the Bears defense does to the Redskins defense could reasonably do to the Bears. This will come down to whoever can get that crucial score late in the fourth quarter, and I think that's the Redskins. We don't do chalk talk around here. I'm going with Washington 20-17 over Chicago. So what y'all think? Let me know in the comments, and if you don't agree with one of my picks, tell your team to prove me wrong. Anyway, until next time, I'm Stats with Evan, and I hope you have a 100% day. Enjoy the games, y'all.